Hello there folks, and how is it going? And welcome back to another video. It's cold and welcome to Dublin City. Wow, this is my first time making a video here in Dublin, and yeah, what a beautiful city to take photographs in. And as you can see behind me here, we are standing looking at the Samuel Beckett Bridge. We are waiting for the natural light to come up a bit more. It's early morning. The sunrise is happening in about maybe about 45 minutes or so. So we're just on the cusp of finding that nice blue hour balance. And as you can see, it's quite lit up here because it's, Christmas time. So this is going to be the main subject for our video today, is this beautiful Samuel Beckett Bridge. As you can see, hopefully here it's shaped like a wonderful harp. And then we also have the convention center, which is right next to us here, which we will absolutely take a photograph of too, because that's just as beautiful. But I will stop rambling and let's get shooting, because we're on the move. So let's get shooting.
Welcome friends to the ASMR photography studio, and welcome to this beautiful city that I call home. For this first image we are looking at now, I opted to discard some of the footage that I recorded talking about panoramics and all that kind of stuff when I found this particular frame to be the nicest one out of the bunch that I took. So I was sparing you the mad ramblings of me on camera, and I am absolutely delighted with how this first image turned out. So I actually blended a longer shutter speed to smooth out the water to give us a couple of nice light trails that you can see in the frame. Then I also photographed then at a higher shutter speed because I wanted to make sure I was able to capture a pattern in the design of the bridge. So ultimately I'm really happy with the way that this blend worked out. The vibrancy and the light in the image really sing. It's wonderful, and I'm super glad that I was able to photograph this beautiful scene and this wonderful bridge. Keeping things just a little simpler, I actually zoomed all the way into 35mm to photograph this. It's just a bit of a kind of off the cuff kind of shot, but I really like those kind of diagonal lines that lead in from the left and just kind of make it a bit more weird looking. Of course, then you get the odd light trail that's coming across the bridge too as well. So just a bit of a quick shot that I'm happy enough to share with everybody here.
So one of the beautiful things about photographing at this time of day, blue hour essentially, is you get this wonderful balance between the artificial light and the natural light that's in the sky. It can be quite fleeting, but it's a wonderful time to come out and photograph because you just get these beautifully clean images that I really love. And the shots that I'm looking at here now, I've actually turned to my right, which is the convention center over here on the other side of, this is the River Liffey, by the way. Hello, River Liffey. So across the way on the River Liffey is the convention center, which is this beautifully designed building, and it's just got some wonderful lights. And I'm essentially taking a shot. I don't know if you can see here, I'm essentially just taking a shot all the way down, looking at these beautiful buildings across the way here. This end of Dublin City really has some fantastic architecture and really makes for some beautiful blue hour shots. So let's keep shooting and let's keep our fingers crossed that they all work out.
So as I mentioned in the video, the opposite side of the River Liffey from where I am standing has got these beautiful buildings that are so wonderfully lit and really lend themselves well to this kind of blue hour photography. As you can see from the top right of the image, the morning was starting to creep in ever so slightly, but that's okay because that's just time. But overall, I really love this image. It's got this beautiful line of light that just goes all the way down the Liffey, and the reflections of the light on the river itself are absolutely wonderful. Really happy with how this one turned out. And the convention center that you can see on the left is quite a unique design. It really photographs very nicely, so really happy with how this one looks.
So one thing you got to be super mindful about photographing architecture in a city, or any architecture in general, if you can, of course. I know some architecture can be quite old and like slanty and sideways. You can't do anything about that. But when you're dealing with, like, modern buildings and things like that, or cityscape photography in this instance, one thing you really got to try and do if you can, like I say, is just to mind your lines and to make sure things are straight and horizontal and, you know, vertical. If you have your level turned on in the camera, and it just gives you a nice starting place. I know in post-production you can, you know, do quite a lot of magic, which is great. But in this instance of the convention center here to my left, I've moved down another small bit. I'm doing like a portrait orientation image of this building. And so just to make sure you got your lines nice and level. So if any of these convention center images turn out to be any good, I will pop them up on the screen for you now.
So with this first example, I shot, as I mentioned, in a portrait orientation for this image, and I really love isolating the convention center in the frame. Really happy. It's like it really pops up off the image, and it's really great. It's such a strong element, and because of that beautiful design, that bulbous form of the, you know, glass in the middle between the solid concrete on the left and right really help emphasize that. It's such a wonderful thing to photograph. And this image I shot just a bit earlier on, before the light had come up just a little bit more, and I actually do think I prefer this image to the previous one, only just because that blue hour balance for me is still there. Of course, then you've got the beautiful wider perspective, which incorporates a bit more on the left and the right. Now, the unfortunate thing about the left side of the frame, there's nothing there, so it kind of mismatches the balance a bit of an image like this. So I suppose that's probably why the tighter portrait orientation image kind of works a little bit better. But for me, the blue hour balance in this particular frame just works, and overall aesthetically, I think it gives a grander feeling to the architecture and works very nicely.
So one thing you got to be super mindful about photographing in cities like this, where you're next to big rivers and things like that, is sometimes these rocks below can get kind of slippy. So just to be extra mindful when you are walking around cities like this, particularly in Dublin here, because it rains a lot and these rocks get quite slippy. The focus, folks, is just in and out all the time here. It's low light. The camera isn't the best at dealing with this kind of thing. So apologies and please bear with us. But I hope you can see here in any way, shape or form behind me, I have moved down, or we have moved down the Liffey a bit to try and capture both the convention centre and the Samuel Beckett Bridge in one image. And I have attached my 3-stop, my Kase filter 3-stop nonetheless, just to give me, because as you can see, it is getting a bit brighter here, and I wanted to make sure we can get a nice long exposure to smooth out this water, which is really looking nice and fine and dandy. But what I'm going to do now is, before all the lights turn off, I'm going to quickly swap to my 100 to 400 and see if I can photograph some nice kind of abstract-y images before we lose all the light. So let's do that real quick. Oh, and if these pictures turn out to be any good, let's have a look at them now.
So I thought it quite fitting to be able to photograph both the Samuel Beckett Bridge and the Convention Centre in one frame, and I absolutely love the final image that I was able to create here. It's such a wonderful balance between that beautiful harp shape in the Samuel Beckett and then that gnarly looking bulbous Convention Centre. But overall, the aesthetics of the frame really worked very nicely, and again, that beautiful balance of blue hour natural light and the artificial light that's on in the city really lend themselves well for quality photography in cityscape settings. So I absolutely love this image. Could do very well as a print, you know, if you're ever inclined to have a print of Dublin City on your wall. It's this kind of image that would look very well on a wall. So yeah, if you want to have a print, let me know. But anyway, really happy with how this one turned out.
So we are actually getting quite a nice bit of light off in the distance here. The sun is coming up from this way. Dublin is on the west on the east side of Ireland, and so we do get beautiful sunrises here, and it is proving to be just that indeed. I have still my 100 to 400 on, burning red sky, so let's see if that works. I've got my 3-stop on just to smooth out a bit of water, and if that picture turns out to be any good, I will pop that up on the screen for you now.
So as I was zoomed in all the way down the River Liffey, this image was shot at about 400 millimeters. That beautiful, beautiful sky in the background really helps elevate this frame for me, and it's a nice kind of juxtaposition between the kind of industry of Dublin and the, you know, beauty of nature in the background. Dublin is a rapidly changing city, and, you know, all these cranes and all of this kind of stuff that's happening down at that far end of the Liffey are testament to that change. So I'm glad I was able to, you know, freeze a moment in Dublin's history, if you will, as it transitions into the future. So I'm super happy with how this particular image turned out. Again, it's just a bit simple, and it's not the most aesthetically pleasing image in the world, but for me, you know, it adds a nice kind of connection to the city and to the change of that city.
So one of the beautiful things, as I mentioned, when I swapped over to my 100-400, particularly in Cityscape, you really get the opportunity to like focus in and find these crazy abstracts. And I love that about architectural photography, and particularly using a lens like the 100-400. So if any of these pictures turn out to be any good, then I will pop them up on the screen for you now. Classic ASMR photography lab style. And let's keep going, because the morning is turning into one beautiful morning.
Love this kind of photography, particularly in architectural photography. It just gives you such a wonderful opportunity to photograph repetition, shapes, lines, and just gives this abstract feel to the whole place. And some of these images really do pop off the page for me, and again, it's just a testament to architecture that's in the city, and then of course then what us as creatives can do with that architecture. My two favorite images that I captured on this morning in this kind of abstract style is this one, where it's just this fiery reflection of the sunrise in the glass across the way, and I really love this. It's so great. And then this next one, it boggles the mind to think about what it is. It's like a rainbow waterfall in the middle of the glass, and then that beautiful diagonals coming across the frame. Really, really happy with how all of these turned out, and I'd be very curious to know which of them is your favorite, so do let me know in the comments below.
So my face is probably huge in this frame here, which is great fun. But just as an example, I really, really hope you can see the back of the camera here. So this is the kind of thing that you can do with your 100-400 or any kind of telephoto lens that you have. And I absolutely love this kind of imagery, particularly when you're dealing with architectural photography, because it just gives you such a fantastic opportunity to find these beautiful shapes and repetitions of shapes as well, which is a huge, aesthetically pleasing thing when you're photographing in general. So as you can see from the frame here, and you've got these beautiful red, I suppose they're metal things, girders, I don't know what the building's made of, but the beautiful soft light behind, the lovely, lovely lines of the red building, and then of course the smallest bit of light that's left, the artificial light that's left on the building is really, really nice. I might try focus in just a small bit more, just to crop in an extra bit more, but as you can see, these are the kinds of things that it's wonderful to play around with when you've got the time, of course, to photograph architecturally like this. So let's play around and keep going.
Now, there's not a huge amount that I can say about this image that I didn't say in my mad rambling just a moment ago. Other than that, I am really happy with how it turned out. And just to reiterate the fact that for me, when photographing in a city or in an architectural kind of setting, I absolutely love this kind of photography. Using that 100-400 as I rambled about moments ago in the abstract scene really gives you such a great opportunity to punch in and find these shapes. And again, like I mentioned, these repetitions of shapes, and the reflection in that glass is absolutely gorgeous, but then the subtle hint of what's behind that glass as well is just adds this wonderful mystery to the frame. And I really love that balance between the artificial light and the natural light that's happening. It's such a wonderful frame, and I'm super happy with how this particular one turned out.
So folks, getting up in the morning time, it does be a struggle sometimes, but when you do, it's absolutely worth it, particularly when you come to a city as beautiful as Dublin. Now, I hope to make a few videos from Dublin City, like kind of like a series, just because I live here. Yeah, well, at least for now I do. So I figure I might as well, it's right here on my doorstep, I might as well take advantage of it, because I have photographed all through the years in Dublin City. So there are some wonderful locations, particularly a bit further on down the Liffey. There's some few locations down there as well that lend themselves well to this kind of cityscape architectural style of photography. So I will absolutely be taking advantage of that, and I hope you enjoy the journey along with me too. But yes, absolutely gorgeous morning. Also as well, I have just recently kind of announced or like published on my website that I am now offering kind of one-to-one tuition. So if you feel like you would like to learn, particularly in a city like this, you're most welcome to get in touch with me through the website. If you feel like you want to hang out with me in Dublin City, we can take some photos and have a good time learning as well. Oh, and we can also have some good coffee. Dublin is like renowned for its coffee scene, so that's where we're going to head to next. Is and sandwiches, coffee and sandwiches. Sandwiches in Ireland in general, but like Ireland is, yeah, it's very coffee scene heavy, so good coffee and good company. But nonetheless, we are going to leave it here, folks, and I really, really do hope all these images did this beautiful scene any justice. And of course, if you like the video, do please hit that like button. And if you fancy following along for more of this wonderful adventure, then you're most welcome to hit that subscribe button. And I will see you all in the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Cheers. Do, 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 do.